Hello and welcome to this short video about Jaguar XK8 warning messages. This is video 61 in my series of XK8 videos. In this video I'm going to go through all the warning messages you can potentially see in your dash and what the 1996 Driver's Handbook advises you do about it. If you're interested in Jaguar XK8s, might I suggest you subscribe to this channel. It's exclusively about Jaguar XK8s and XKRs. Please press the subscribe button to do that. Click the bell to be automatically reminded of when videos are aired. And if you like the video, please press the thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments underneath the video. Okay, on a previous video, I went through the trip computer, and to sort of finish the subject, I'm going to use this video to go through all the potential warning messages that you're going to get in that little readout underneath your speedo. Most of which you don't have to worry about. A lot of times they'll be down to just battery issues. One thing you need to know is XK8s are very sensitive to voltage level. If the voltage level goes below a certain level, it'll trip lots of sensors out. Then all you have to do is put a new battery on and it'll fix a lot of issues. It'll be potentially when you start up in the spring, you get a lot of issues like gearbox malfunction, etc. But anyway, we'll go through what the manual says are the warning messages you're potentially going to get. So forewarned is forearmed. So before I go into all the detail, there's only really 4 messages that you really have to be conscious of. There's low oil pressure, poor vehicle performance with the red indicator, and low brake fluid level. Now those are the 3 warning messages that in the manual it prescribes that you do not drive the car. So basically stop and don't drive the car. The one I would advise personally to add to that is the engine coolant low, which can most of the time be just the float, the sensor float in the expansion tank playing up. But if it isn't that and you've had a hose failure, that's potentially going to overheat the vehicle. So it's always best to double check the engine coolant low again until you're happy. So going into the detail, in the manual, the driver's handbook, there's a section of warning messages which describes the warning light, the message, the priority indicator and the meaning. The first of those is the engine check light, the dreaded engine check. The first level is where you don't get a message, it just lights up engine check. It basically means the engine management computer has had a code for one of its subsystems and it's gone into limp mode. But don't panic, just get a code reader, try and investigate it, and the vehicle can be driven. The second level is amber, which is basically the same deal, but you need to go to a Jaguar dealer, so the manual says. And the third one is the red one, which is basically in the manual prescribes throttle failure. But again, you can still drive the car. Next warning message is low oil pressure. This is one of the biggies. It should light up when the ignition is first put in the position 2, and when it should go out once the engine is running and the oil has reached its pressure. However, if you lose that light, it could well be the oil pressure sensor, but it's not worth risking it, because without oil pressure you're going to seize your engine. So this is one of the ones that the manual prescribes: stop, do not restart. Next, battery not charging. As I've spoke about already, the battery and alternator are a bit of a weak point on these cars. They're not a weak point, but the electrical system voltage is a weak point, so it can throw a lot of false codes purely based on low voltage. So it's best to keep this up to scratch. So battery not charging is going to be similar to the oil pressure. When you're in position 2, it lights up and it should go out once the engine's running. If it doesn't, it's best to get this sorted out as soon as you can. But again, you can drive the car. It's potentially going to stop once you run out of all your voltage, but that's another issue. Moving on, warning messages then. Gearbox fault. It's an amber indicator. You basically go into transmission limp mode. You can drive it. Again, you need to investigate. High gearbox temperature. Again, the gearbox goes into hot mode to aid cooling. The vehicles can still be driven. Then we go into a few just warning messages. So I got handbrake on. Obviously, bull fail rear. This will basically give, when you get a bull fail rear, there's certain bulbs which are sensed. Not all the rear bulbs, or not all the bulbs in the car are sensed, but the tail light, number plate and brake light, basically the safety critical ones, are sensed by the system. So you need to check those out. Obvious ones: bonnet open, boot open, washer fluid low, very nice. Nasty ones: suspension fault. If you got your cat suspension and you get a damper problem, it'll throw a code. Cruise control issue, cruise inhibited. Again, all these you can actually carry on driving. Electrical fault, it's a bit of an obscure one. It basically says that you've got a battery ignition supply fault or electrical communication. It's basically everything except battery and alternator by the looks of it. But you get reduced electrical operation, so you may have trouble with your central locking, so you need to double check that. A couple more messages, more than warnings. When you're recoding your keyring or you got it in valet mode. There's lots and lots of messages here. Another message: system check, is just basically when the instruments are self-checking immediately after ignition on. If you stall the engine, you get engine stall message. It also has a engine coolant low message. That's the what I put as an amber or an orange one, where it checks the level of coolant in the reservoir. If that drops, you potentially blow on a hose, and it's going to be a big problem. Or it could be just a faulty sensor, so you need to be really careful of that one. Then some just one more messages: driver's door open, passenger's door open, hood latch fail, traction control fail, stability control fail, ACS, all of which, even though you've got no traction control, stability control, you can still keep driving. There's a couple of poor performance ones. There's an amber and a red indicator. The amber, you're going to get loss of power drivability and limp mode. It's not so much of a big issue, but if you get poor performance on the red indicator, you're going to get the same thing, but it's the manual advises do not drive the vehicle. It's not really clear why. I'm assuming there's some catastrophic thing going to happen. Then finally, another big one: brake fluid, low brake fluid. This lights up when the ignition's on and the handbrake is applied, or the brake fluid is low. So basically, if that light is on and the handbrake's not applied, low brake fluid is indicated. So this needs to be checked out immediately, not to drive until you've sorted it, because obviously if you get brake failure on these cars, it's going to be a bit of a problem. So there you go. 3 main warning messages to be wary of, and one you really need to check out. So low oil pressure, poor vehicle performance with a red indicator, low brake fluid, and engine coolant low. Hopefully now, forewarned is forearmed, as I said. If you see any of those warning messages on your dash, most of them don't panic about, but there's 3 or 4 you really need to be conscious of. Thank you for watching. Hope you found it useful. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more XK8 videos.